Have you ever wondered how it's possible for gliders to fly really long distances? In under 90 minutes, this video will take you through an epic flight that took many hours to fly. Much of the steady cruising or circling has been left out, essentially. There's no sped up bits, that just kills the immersive feel, I reckon. Instead, I've edited to boost the aesthetics of the glider and the landscape from all sorts of perspectives. This is not a tutorial on Condor 3, but if you're a beginner or even a club level cross-country pilot, you'll pick up some interesting bits of soaring info, I'm sure. I'm Tim Parrish, and I hope you enjoy checking this all out. This flight over the Alice Springs landscape has 6 legs, indicated by blue lines on the map. Each one turns red as I talk about it. The first red one's up there already, near the middle of the map. Early in the day, we take an aerotow that heads straight out west of the runway. After leaving the start gate, we fly ridges of various heights, although all of them are very low by alpine standards. Near the end of the leg, it's something of a challenge to thermal away from low altitude before the weather changes and knocks out all the slope lift. After rounding turn point 1, the new weather system has definitely arrived, and the thermals are smoother, stronger and going much higher than before. However, approaching turn point 2, we have to cross a blue hole. After rounding turn point 2 with sufficient height, we are able to head straight back across the blue hole. This is the longest leg of the flight and it's against a slight headwind. But that's not a problem in the strongest part of the day with absolutely bombastic conditions. After rounding turn point 3, which is near the famous Uluru, that's formerly Ayers Rock, it's quite easy to make fast progress in the thermals, which are still topping out at around 14,000 feet AMSL. After rounding turn point 4, the thermals are past their prime but still strong and high. A little too high actually, since due to airspace we have to drop to under 11,500 AMSL very shortly after going round. After rounding turn point 5 and heading almost due north, we set up for a long final glide back to Ross River. It's only slightly complicated by the need to stay right of track for a while to stay outside of some even lower airspace. So that's what happens. Climb on board. Here we go. First up, it's the chaotic check. C is for controls, full and free movement. Harness, tight and secure. Air brakes, closed and locked. Flaps set for takeoff. Outside, we've got a bit of a crosswind from the right. Trim, full forward. Instruments, we're mainly concerned with the altimeter. Looks like we're starting circuit at around 2,500. And canopy closed and locked. Here we go. And we're starting the takeoff roll, just trying to keep the wings level. It's a bit gusty out there. We'll do our best. Lifting off in a moment. There we go. You can see the windsock down there with that stiff crosswind. And we'll soon be leaving the strip behind as we head out to the west towards the start area, start sector. A little bit turbulent. Just a little bit of work to keep the nose behind the tug. Leaving the strip behind a few k's away. And we're getting close now, as you can see on the flight computer in the middle there. Right, just starting to enter the area. There we go. Release the tow rope. Now we're raising the undercarriage with that switch on the left. With my hand on it. And we'll just continue heading this way for a few moments until we cross the start line, and then we'll just head straight out towards that low ridge, straight ahead. So here we are, heading off on the first leg of 6 towards the west. See some low hills to the north there. We won't be using them. This ridge just down there to the right is a little too far away to be doing much for us, but we'll try and, as we get low, we'll try and make a little bit of use of it in the next couple of kilometres, and then we'll head north. Here we go, we're heading north against the breeze, just tiptoeing along because we've got to make it to the gap up here with sufficient height to get onto the ridge, and then continue to the west. That's off to the left. So the speed we're doing, we're not much above best glide speed actually, with a full load of water, quite close to it, so we're sneaking along. Ground's a little lumpy, it's lifting in some parts and sinking a bit in others as the breeze blows over it, but we should make it alright. It's a high performance sailplane. Down to 2,600. You can see the ground moving past here, so we're not that high off it. Let's just hope we can make the ridge. We should just be able to sneak onto it. And here we are, just easing to the left a little. Now we need to slip onto the slope. And we've made it. Got a little bit of work to do to make the crest, but then we should be fine. Once we make the crest, we can put a few more knots of speed on and continue on. Still flying fairly slow to maximise our climb rate in the weak lift. Now at this point we've actually flown back downwind again, as you can tell by that trail behind the little white glider on the computer there. So on another ridge altogether, but it's similar height. Circuit height's about 2.5 and we're only flying at about just above 3 at the moment, so these are not very big ridges. Quite a large gap coming up. Here we go, and we've made the decision to fly straight across rather than drop back to that other ridge further to the south. That's an option, but it's quite a deviation in terms of distance. And we'll have enough height as long as we don't squander it by flying too fast. Here's a good view of that ridge further to the south. Quite a bit of high level cloud around. And here we are, we've made it to the other side. We're flying a little faster now. Is that quite a good angle to the breeze? So we're flying at about -2 flap, on the -2 flap setting. In fact, we're near the top end of the speed range for -2. The ridges aren't perfectly regular, so the lift goes up and down somewhat. This gives a slight sense of the speed we're doing. Position of best lift is just in front of the crest and just above it, which is what we're attempting to work. Looks even faster from this angle. You can see the slightly tail high attitude there as we push along. The view from the cockpit shows us hugging the slope, just trying to follow the contours to make the most of the lift. That way we can maintain a fairly fast speed without losing height. And to the south there's a couple of other ridges, however they don't extend as far as the one that we're on. If we went down there, we'd have trouble getting back to this one later on. And here's another gap that we're crossing. Looks like we have ample height to arrive at near crest height. Once more, we're low down, hugging the slope, trying to stay in that band of good lift. Occasionally it gets a little higher, as you can see, and we have to raise the nose a touch, which brings the speed back. But then as it goes down again, we follow it down, putting on speed. There's a little bit of thermal activity around at the moment, but our best bet is still to stick to the ridge because it provides reliable lift in this direction. That's a big dry riverbed in the distance there, sandy riverbed, usually with quite a few gum trees spread through it, down the sides and in the middle sometimes. You can tell the terrain's a little higher now because we're sitting around 3,300. Just traded 100 feet of that height for a bit more speed just then. In fact, we can go at this point, we can just about go to -3 flap setting. That's the most negative flap setting that we've got on this machine. Anything above 120 knots, that's the most efficient flap setting. Helps get rid of some drag at high speed. Short little gap here, we won't bother slowing down at all. The slope is quite steep here, so we can expect some fairly decent slope lift over it. And we're not that far from the turn point, so we need to start thinking about getting off of this ridge. So we'll have a bit of a sniff around right here. I thought I felt something. It's not going to be easy though, because the lift is fairly modest at this time of day. Well, that didn't come to much, so we're just pressing on. We'll gain a little more height right here before we penetrate upwind for a little while. Get onto that ridge to our right. Here we go, turning around now. We'll just cut back the speed a bit and head almost directly upwind for a moment. And there might be some lift coming off this section to our left now as we come onto it. Actually, I was referring to thermal lift because there's quite an area of bare rock face there which can warm up quite hot and generate a bit of a warm air bubble. Let's see what we can find. Under some conditions, it's not always that easy to tell what's slope lift and what's thermal lift. Usually in thermal lift you get a burst of something that's 2 or 3 times stronger than the slope lift, and then you know it's a thermal. So we're just exploring around here, just trying to stick with a little plume of rising air that I feel might be here somewhere. We'll try that. that a thermal or is it slope? We'll try again. Oh, I think that might just be slope lift actually. There is quite a big drop down there with 15 knots coming up over it. So we'll raise the flaps a bit and move along. See what else we can find. What's this? Is this something? We'll just have a quick sniff around to see what's here. Maybe not. This is looking a little more hopeful. We've got a bit of height now. In fact, we're over 5,000, so we've definitely got away from the slope. It's gradually getting more consistent and a little stronger as we go up. So we'll stick with this. A little correction there to try and find the core. Looking straight above the aircraft, it's clear that the lift is dying, so we'll have to leave this thermal fairly soon. Now we've found our way to another thermal, a little bit further to the west. We'll just find the centre first of all. Where is it? Let's wait for the variometer to come up again. Here it comes. So we take off some bank, fly a little closer to the middle, bank it over. Just trying to hang on to that climb rate. And again, another little correction. This is much stronger than when we left the ridge in that first thermal. Nice view from here of the intricacies of the land below. Dry creek beds, gullies where the water comes down in wet weather, different coloured soil. Some of it's reddish, some of it's more clay. We've got some useful height now. We should be able to find our way further to the west before long. And it appears that the weather is really starting to change, because we've found our way into another thermal. We're only looking at the computer there, we're only 17 k's from the turn point, and this is very much stronger and smoother than the last two thermals we were in. So this is beautifully easy to work. We just hold a constant speed and bank angle. Just had a look above there only to find nothing, so it's probably a new thermal that hasn't condensed into a cloud just yet, but it will in a while. You can see some of those clouds back there had a lower cloud base than what we're at the moment, so that's the weather system that we've flown out of. And once again, the thermal's dying on us, so we'll have to leave shortly. You can persist and get a few more 100 feet, but it's not really worth it in terms of speed. You've got to leave while it's strong. Here we go. Approaching the turn point. There's some nice puffy cues in the distance, cumulus clouds with quite high cloud bases. We're over 10,000 at the moment, but I think they go even higher than that. We'll find out shortly. And around we go. See the little red bug at the top of the computer, just reaching the middle. Then we roll out onto our new track, heading towards turn point 2. Here we are on the second leg. It's quite a bit shorter than the one we've just been on. This one takes us north up towards an area of salt lakes, and anyway, we'll see them in a moment. Looks like we're flying over some very interesting terrain here. It's these features just stretch for hundreds of kilometres sometimes, east to west across this part of the country. Some more wrinkles down there in the landscape. Hilly terrain. Now we've found another very strong thermal, so they'll all be pretty strong from now on. Quite wide as well, so we don't have to thermal very steeply at all. Quickly approaching 10,000 feet. And just looking down there at the flight computer, we've been in the air for nearly 2 hours. I think 1 hour 56 was what it said. This is a fairly arid area, but there's still a few bits of greenery down there, mainly with the watercourses. Well, it has water at some times of the year, dry most of the time. You can see quite a dead cloud behind the tail of the glider there. It's moving off to the left, a bit fuzzy around the edges. No lift under there. Found another strong thermal. Just wash off some speed. Drop the flaps, that's that clunking you can hear. It's just +1. And let it sit around 50-55 knots. Still climbing, looks like we'll go considerably higher than 10,000 this time. See a lot of red earth down there, that's why it's called the red centre, this part of the country. The green areas are probably eucalypts and dry creek beds, or areas that get flooded when it's wet. Now we can see the salt lakes out to the right there, quite a large area, and there's no lift over there at all. It's just a blue hole, so we'll have to cross that a little later. We'll see what we can do with this cloud here first, get as much height as we can before we cross. Washing off a little speed in anticipation of the lift. And there it is. Unfortunately, I think it might be dying. That cloud didn't look that great just then. So here we are. We've left that thermal that ended a bit prematurely for our liking, and we're heading off across the blue hole. And it appears like we'll probably reach the turn point before we reach any lift, so we'll just have to do the whole trip out and back without a climb. So we're flying a little conservatively in order not to lose too much height, just above 80 knots there. We'll tiptoe out and then make a decision about how fast we want to fly on the way back. Now there's a great view of the salt lakes. There could even be a little bit of water down there. It evaporates and leaves the salt behind. It comes out of the ground. And there's still a bit of high cloud around that'll burn off a bit later. And we've arrived. You can see in red in the middle of the flight computer there, that little area. We're just about to enter the turn point sector. There it goes, it just turned green. So we'll head back on the new heading for turn point 3. You see it come up there at the top of the flight computer. Leg 3 takes us back over those salt lakes. We'll fly a little faster than we initially went across them. There's plenty of lift out there. We should be still at a reasonable height when we arrive. Somewhere around 6,000 feet, I think. Might go for this one just slightly to the left of the nose up here. Well, we're at 6,300. Should get there around 6,000, I hope. Should start to feel a little bit of thermic activity any time now. Pretty featureless down there. Bit difficult to pick a spot to land. It seems to be peppered with small vegetation. Well, we've found something that's good. Just open up a bit here. Oh, that's good. Let's crank it back in. In fact, we're approaching the strongest part of the day, so it's really going to be strong from now on. We can cruise quite fast. See the big shadow of the cloud there. Some slightly rugged areas there that we passed over on our way up. And what do you know, the cloud's starting to fall apart, so we'll have to get out of here soon. But you can hear the Vario starting to die already. So this is another thermal. We've just flown on a few minutes further, climbing quickly through 10,500 feet, so we'll see how high this one goes. So far this flight we haven't even made it to cloud base, but now's the time, I think. There's the salt lakes we've left quite a way behind now, making our way south. And we're in the cruise, and as you can see we're getting along quite quickly, over 120 knots. There's a little bit of cloud on the right, looks a bit dead, so we'll just push straight on, I think, to that one beyond it. It's directly above the yaw string there, we'll go there. An incredible landscape, hey? Some more views of the hills. Not particularly soarable, they're a bit irregular. Not particularly high. A dirt road down below. Cut out of the red soil. Little black arrow at the bottom left corner of the computer, that's the wind, speed and direction, and the little figures down below that indicate the direction and the speed in black, little black figures. Quite an undulating part of the landscape we're over at the moment. That would be quite tricky to put a plane down there. It's almost nowhere flat. It's a good thing we can stay pretty high. In fact, we'll be trying to work the band between 10,000 and 14,000, I think. It's above sea level. Raising the flaps there. -2. Sorry, -1, -2. You can hear the airspeed building up there. It's go all the way to -3 flap setting, above 120 knots. Helps get rid of some drag at high speed. Let's just fly fairly flat. Now we're approaching cloud base. See it starting to get close to the horizon. There's a big bowl under there. It sort of tends to be concave and on the big cumulus cloud. It gets a little lower around the edges, so we have to push through that as you can see we're doing here. Just push the nose down. It gets a little murky for a moment, so we just keep the nose down until it clears up. Some more very unique ground features there. What a contrast in the soil on either side of that feature running from the top to the bottom of the screen there. Once again, we found some very strong lift. Just try and centre it. Quick check up there to see if there's a cloud up there. It looked healthy enough. straighten up here for a moment. Crank it back in. See if we can keep that needle up. If we can't average at least 8 knots, it's not really good enough to stick with on a day like today. Straightening up here. Cranking it back in. That's a little better. Maybe this thermal's a touch narrower than the others. We keep having to correct. It's certainly a healthy cloud above. Once again, we're climbing. Approaching 13,000. Not far from cloud base at all. And it would be interesting trying to land down there. I suppose you'd have to go for a bare spot. Just hope to avoid vegetation. Could be a bit rough though. So accelerating straight back up to cruise speed. Now at this stage of the leg we've got another screen up on the computer that down the bottom there we can see that we're just 54, 55, close enough, k's away from the turn point. And the figures on the right, 36 and the 18, that's glide ratios actually, well glide angles. So we're making about 36 to 1, and the turn point you need about 17 to 1 to get there, so we're making it easily. And we're crossing another blue hole that sits over these salt lakes. This will be a one-way trip though. We'll just fly straight across and then head off towards the east after we turn. So we're approaching the lift region. Hopefully we bump into a good strong thermal in a little while. This cloud here looks like it's appropriate. Leaving the salt lakes behind. Just passing underneath some dead cumulus there. And it looks like we're 10.3 k's, 10.2, 10.1. We're quickly closing on the turn point. Oodles of height, just over 13,000 AMSL. And according to the computer, I figured down the bottom in the middle there, 10,377 just then. That's the height at which we should arrive at the current speed. Just slip under this cloud and do a little dolphin soaring, pull the nose up and take advantage. We'll just change course a little to get around the turn point. We're not about to circle, we don't need to. So we've left Uluru behind, the famous Ayers Rock, and we're thermaling up on the next leg, leg 4. It's a long one. It's about the same length, in fact, as leg 3. And this time, instead of a slight headwind, we're actually being aided by a slight tailwind in this direction. You can see the little black arrow at the bottom left corner of the flight computer there, and some little figures in black beneath that which detail the direction and strength in knots of the wind. There's those salt lakes that we flew over on our way into the turn point. Just a shade less than 45 degrees is plenty for a thermal of this size. That also means you can fly a touch slower as well, which helps your sink rate. Sink rate of the glider, that is. And we're cruising once again at the speed well up, so -3 flap setting. So we can fly efficiently at that speed, minimises drag. We're approaching a very healthy looking cumulus. Just about to slip under it. Just wash some speed off here and decide whether to fly straight through. Okay, we've moved along a bit into the next thermal. Very strong, as you can see. We've actually got two variometers in this machine. Down the bottom of the panel there, we've got one on the left and one on the right. Although I tend to fly by the audio, that's the beeping sound. The variometer on the left is handy because it has a few bugs which tell you various things. A little red bug near the top of the instrument is telling us that we're doing about 10 knots climb at the moment, which is fantastic. Getting rather close to cloud base here, so we'll roll out in a moment and build up some speed, stay clear of the cloud, and also to punch through the sink. It's usually found outside the lift area. So we're going to tail up and we're heading off. Looking at the flight computer. Been in the air for over 5 hours. And we're lining up with another likely looking cloud. Looks pretty good. Nice and puffy and well defined. Dark down the bottom. And there's the lift. Slowing up, as you can hear with the airflow, getting quieter, and in we go. Tuck right in, drop the flaps down to +1, get the speed back. Just waiting for the variometer to increase again. Here it comes. So we open out the turn, crank it back in, finding our way to the middle. It ended up being a little underwhelming actually, so we're pressing on. Bit of a dead patch to fly through first of all, and then it looks nice and dark further ahead. See the wings flex there as we pull up. Oh, that's quite strong. But we'll just dolphin saw through here. Nose up and nose down. Take advantage while flying straight. Slight change of course here. To get back on track. Sometimes finding the best lift takes you off track a little. This is very strong right here. Cloud base in no time, and there it is. You better roll out pretty soon. Get some speed up as we do that as well. Very featureless landscape out there at the moment. It looks pretty much the same wherever you look. Pushing along fairly fast. You can tell by the sound of the air rushing past the cockpit. What have we got here? Might as well investigate this little cloud, see what it's got. Looks quite young, so it could be strong. Just to line up a bit better. And there's the lift. Let's see what comes of this. There's something there. I'll just open out here. Keep trying for a while longer, but it's a little underwhelming. I think we'll just move on. So here we are on the cruise again, approaching another cloud. Been in the air for 6 hours, according to the flight computer. It's the figure at the top left of all the white figures there. And we'll just take advantage of this for a while. Lots of little gullies down there where the rain gathers, flows down, and eucalypt trees grow in the flooded areas when it's wet. We'll be at cloud base in no time by the looks of it. I don't think there's much under this cloud right here. It looks a little ill-defined, so we'll keep going through. Flight computer says we're about 12.5 minutes from the next turn point if we just keep cruising at this speed. Well, that cloud's full of holes, as we can see. Something healthier coming up in front of us now in terms of lift. At 31 kilometres from the turn point. The flight computer there. Punching along. Some more hilly terrain down below. You can tell by all the little streams. Well, they're not Don't have any water in them right now, but you can see all the vegetation that grows up where the water comes once a year. Another strong thermal, and looking at the middle of the flight computer there, you can see the turn point is quite close now, and this will be one of our last opportunities to climb really high, because we've got airspace coming up on the other side of this turn point. So we'll get as much height as we can here. But then we'll have to be careful. Nice view of the river below, with all the eucalypt along the banks and down the middle, growing up in the sand. Lots of red earth everywhere. That's why they call this the red centre. Here we are on leg 5, and you can tell we've been around that turn point because the sector's turned green on the left of the flight computer there, and that we had a airspace warning up there too, you might have noticed. That's because we need to stay below 11.5 now, 11,500 feet. The warning was up because we were still, well, we were within 300 feet of the ceiling. We're cruising fast. The thermals are still pretty good, although by this time of day they'll start to begin to wane a little bit in strength. A little bit of rough air there, you can see the wings flexing. And we're approaching some more lift. This is a relatively short leg. In fact, I think this is the shortest leg of the entire task. Let's see what's under this cloud. And yeah, we can see the turn point ahead of us already. There's that airspace warning, we better turn away. In fact, this is another even lower airspace, so we can't afford to go in there at all. It's down to 6.5, I think. So we changed course to avoid getting into trouble. And we're just far enough away to make use of this thermal. And with the wind direction, it shouldn't move us any closer to the airspace, so we should be fine. Let's try and centre this a bit better. There's something here. Well, finally, we're on the last leg of the task, leg 6. You can see on the flight computer there the turn point sector has turned to green, so we've been around there, and we're heading off somewhat to the right of track, as you can see. Now there's a reason for that. We've got another airspace restriction coming up. I don't know if you can see the faint dark line on the flight computer, the curvy line that just almost intersects with the left wing of the little white plane there. But that's down to about 6,000 feet, or 6.5, and it's a long final glide, so we'll need to stay clear of that for some time. So we're just trying to figure out which cloud we can aim for without getting too close to that airspace. At this point we can start to see those ridges again, which were common around the area that we started flying, roughly lined up east-west. Sun's getting a little lower in the sky. Moving towards late afternoon. Still plenty of lift around, but not quite as booming as it was. Got about 50 k's to go to the finish. You can see how far to right of track we've got to go here. You might be able to pick up that black line that represents the airspace as well, right next to the left wingtip there, the little white plane in the middle. Some fairly unlandable terrain coming up on the left there. Looks attractive though. Amazing landscapes to look at. And the shadows starting to form as the sun gets lower. It's not a particularly fast final glide, but main thing is we're going to get home. The computer's saying we're going to arrive at around 1,400 feet. The glide angles there, we're making about 23 to 1. Must be a bit of sinking air around. Condor 3 does model the sinking air between thermals reasonably accurately. So besides the strong sink that surrounds the core of the thermal, there's also large areas of more subtle sink, because what goes up must come down. And it's time to get rid of some water. Well, all of it. I'm getting close. So I'm just dumping all the water, and at this point it looks like I might have made a little mistake with the altitude. I reckon I'll probably set a minimum altitude of 1500 feet. So the computer has actually guided us to 1300 feet above that. So we're way too high. That's my mistake. But we're home, that's the main thing. That's the strip right down there we saw a moment ago. And in the middle of the flight computer there, you can see the finish coming up in red. So we've made it home at this stage. That's the main thing, getting home. We'll have to wash off quite a bit of height. So we're just heading out west a little to use up some of that extra height that we've got. Nice lens flare effect there in Condor. Still dumping water. We'll turn that off in a tick. As you can tell, it's getting a little later in the day. We'll just turn back towards the strip now. There it is, just a little way to the east. With all that extra height, I think we'll kill some of it off with a bit of air brake. There they are, got them fully extended there for a few moments as we approach the circuit area. Flaps set for landing, undercarriage down. Speed, we'll hold that at around 55 knots, should be fine, with no water on board. Angle looks about right out there. Down to the strip, just approaching the threshold. And we really don't need that lift, do we? But anyway, we'll just take this turn nice and slowly so we can wash off a little bit more height as we come round. Just lining up on base leg. Now we're turning on to final, just adding a bit of brake. We need quite a bit more, a little bit high. Here we go. Just line up with the runway. Almost no crosswind this time, it's fairly easy landing. Just flare in a moment. There we go. Better keep that right wing up. There we go. And here we are. We've just completed over 1,000 k's around Central Australia. I hope you enjoyed that flight. Subscribe now so you don't miss out later. To keep things interesting, the next video will be in another part of the world, but I'm not saying where at this point. It'll be epic, of course.